Kirsten, thanks so much for your time. Quite a drop in HEPS there. Exactly how did fuel prices impact earnings here?
So we've had quite a challenge sort of economically and operationally on the technical front. But despite that, we've managed to increase the revenue. Unfortunately, that's been offset largely by the increase in fuel prices. So we had a 35% increase in the price of fuel per litre. And then we've also had, on the technical side, we've had some operational challenges regarding fleet availability. And that has necessitated short-term aircraft leases to supplement the fleet, which has cost around another 34 million. And then, in addition, another sort of 50 million rand in terms of hard currency-based costs. So, unfortunately, that excellent revenue performance has largely been offset. But going forward,
before going forward, just help us understand, though. I see when we're talking about fuel, we're speaking about jet fuel specifically, and I see that this has come in quite higher than, for instance, your Brent crude. I mean, why such a difference there in margin?
Yes, so the fuel price is a combination of both the Brent crude prices as well as the exchange rate. And a lot of that increase in the fuel price has actually come from an exchange rate deterioration.
Right.
Specifically, it was at its peak in sort of November in our second quarter, where we really incurred high fuel prices.
Right, and having to lease other short-term aircrafts. I mean, and why? Where were your own?
So that's arisen out of fleet availability issues. Some of our older aircraft, the Boeing 737-400 equipment, those aircraft are spending more downtime versus a 737-800. And so that typically about 3 months they'll be on the ground in total over a year versus 2 weeks, which an 800 would be on the ground. We've also had some challenges with our main maintenance supplier, SAA Technical. They've had some challenges that they've actually faced in terms of parts inventory and scheduling. And these things, it's been a sort of perfect storm actually of everything that can possibly go wrong. To remedy that, we are bringing in 2 new 737 MAX aircraft that are delivering, one now in February and one in March.
So those are the smaller ones?
Those are the bigger aircraft.
Right.
And they have better seat capacity but lower fuel burn. And then another 737-800s will be coming on lease during the course of the remainder of the year. So that should address the fleet availability issues. But in the interim, it has cost in terms of short-term leases.
Right. And to what degree is the fuel price and the exchange rate volatility thereof likely to also carry into this new period of results? Because now we're reading about OPEC members, sticking to output cuts even more than was expected. And we've also got this rand that is possibly eyeing, unfortunately, another ratings downgrade. So what does that mean for you?
So it means for us that we're going to have a tough second half. Despite that, the fuel price has come down. So we don't anticipate it'll go back up to the $80 level in terms of the price of oil. But if it does, we'll have to keep the revenue at levels that it has been and look to our other businesses in terms of the diversification strategy. The non-airline business has continued to contribute nicely to the performance of the company. It contributed 27% to profit before tax. And that's a good strategy in terms of mitigating the volatility in the airline business.
But you continue to speak about an oversupplied domestic airline market. I mean, within this environment, how does Comair keep its shareholders happy?
So particularly in the low-cost carrier segment of the market, we're still experiencing overcapacity, and naturally, therefore, Kulula hasn't performed as well as British Airways, operated by Comair. But we have still managed to increase volume, so it depends what strategy you're going on. We've managed to increase volume of passengers, but at a relatively lower average fare per passenger. So overall, your revenue doesn't grow as quickly in Kulula as it potentially does on the other brand, where there is less overcapacity supply issues in the market.
And then, Kirsten, I mean, everyone is talking about a huge amount of money that you are expecting from SAA following the conclusion of that case. I'm just interested in the competition dynamics now, the playing field. What is it like, or will we only see a change sort of in the shorter to medium term?
Yeah, so naturally we're very pleased that we've managed to settle this and resolve it after 16 years. The first order of business is to pay the tax bill. So that is payable based on the computed on the entire amount of the claim, and will be due at our financial year end.
How much is that?
That would be approximately 310 million rand that would be payable in tax. So that's the first order of business, and that's payable despite the fact that the claim is going to be settled over 36 months. So that's a big cash outflow. What it does in terms of the playing field going forward, I think it will be business as usual. Our fleet replacement cycle has actually not been at the optimum pace that we had hoped it would be, because we're not making good enough margins to support the rate of fleet replacement that would be ideal. So we may land up trying to speed up that replacement cycle to some extent, which would simply create additional efficiencies, but we wouldn't be adding additional capacity into the market. And I think it's business as usual.
Right. And the issue with the pilots and your general workers, or the labor aspect there at Comair, I mean, has everything been settled?
Yes, so there was no issue with pilots. We did have so wage negotiations that we were conducting with ground staff during December, and that was quite a challenging time. We managed to, it's obviously our peak period, so that was of concern to us, but we managed to come to resolution with the bargaining unit. And there is another dispute still on the table, and we're working to resolve that. We should have more information by mid-March, but we continue to manage the situation.
All right. A dispute involving who? The ground workers again?
Yes, the same bargaining unit.
All right. Yes. And then, I mean, latest news, I have to ask, from SAA looking to sort of reinvent itself and operate under a different kind of operating model going forward. Quite a number of rumors also that SAA is looking to dispose or sell of its air chefs. A business, that catering unit there. I mean, in this rationalizing of SAA, would there be any assets that could be of interest for Comair?
Yes, absolutely. I think air chefs is one that we had looked at previously as well, and we'd consider looking at that. Hangar space is another difficult commodity to come by. So yes, there would possibly be opportunities going forward, and we'll see what comes out.
So previously, what was the issue with air chefs? They weren't ready to sell previously?
They weren't ready to sell, as far as I understand, yes.
And have you approached them?
We had approached once before, but the whole thing sort of fizzled out.
All right, but you're planning to approach them?
Possibly.
All right.